I want you to just picture your morning routine for a second.
Okay, yeah.
You grab your keys off the counter, you lock the front door, and, maybe you shout a quick see you later to someone in the kitchen.
Right, or even just your dog waiting by the window.
Exactly. And then you step out into the world. And we treat that daily departure as this absolute certainty.
Oh, completely.
Like, it is so deeply ingrained in us that we don't even process it as an actual event. But what if we reframed that incredibly ordinary passing moment as, like, a fragile, unspoken contract?
Well, think about the weight of that assumption.
Right.
It's this quiet promise that the day is going to unfold exactly as it did yesterday.
Right, and the day before that.
Yeah, and the thousands of days prior. It's really the bedrock assumption that you will walk back through that exact same door a few hours later. I mean,
Yeah.
we build our entire personal, financial, and emotional lives around the expectation of that return.
Which is what makes the moment we actually get into our cars and pull out onto the road so honestly deeply bizarre.
Yeah, it really is.
Because the second we are behind the wheel, we tend to drive like we're playing a video game in single-player mode. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Just navigating obstacles.
Exactly. We are just trying to reach our destination, maybe beat the red light, find the fastest lane, and everyone else on the road is just an NPC.
A non-player character.
Right, just some character who happens to be in our way. But the reality of the road, like the actual physical space we are sharing, is the ultimate massive multiplayer experience.
That's a great way to put it.
Everyone out there has an invisible health bar, and it's directly, physically linked to the actions of the strangers around them.
And the environment of the road is actually what forces us into that single-player mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, we are deeply invested in our own destination, our own deadlines.
Or a stress.
Exactly, our own stress. Yet simultaneously, we are entirely at the mercy of strangers who, they can't see the heavy, fragile lives that we're carrying with us.
Yeah.
And the core premise of Chapter 2 of HarGhar Se EkSainik, specifically the section looking at the people we forget, are there. It really asks us to look at the emotional architecture of the road.
Rather than just the physical infrastructure, right?
Precisely. Because every single road user is trailing this invisible home behind them.
And the examples the text uses to illustrate this are just incredibly vivid. Like, take the auto rickshaw driver pulling into chaotic traffic before dawn.
Yeah, that one hits hard.
Right. From the outside, looking through your windshield, he's just another vehicle merging into your lane. Maybe he's slowing you down.
Just an annoyance.
Just an annoyance. But inside his mind, he is consumed by the fact that his youngest child was sick last week, The medical bills are piling up and his rent is due in 3 days.
Right. He sustains his family not just with the physical cash he brings home,
but with his physical presence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
His survival is literally their survival.
And then there's the young woman on a bicycle.
Yeah, riding her last kilometer to college on a really busy, narrow road.
She has an exam in 2 hours, and to the trucks passing her, she's just another obstacle. But she represents all the accumulated hopes and sacrifices of her entire family.
She's striving to be the first in her generation to get a degree.
While her mother stands at the door of their home with this quiet, unannounced prayer for her safety. But the road itself is entirely indifferent to all of this context.
Completely indifferent. The asphalt only registers movement and weight.
Right.
It doesn't know about the exam. It doesn't know about the rent. And it certainly cannot hear the prayers.
Okay, so I get what the book is saying here, and it's a beautiful sentiment, really. But practically speaking, I kind of have to push back on how human nature actually operates in this situation.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because if I'm driving to work, my brain is already full of my own stress. It's kind of like walking through a crowded grocery store on a Sunday afternoon.
All right, that's good comparison.
Intellectually, I know everyone pushing a cart has a complex life, a family, dreams, struggles. But in the moment, my brain cannot handle the emotional baggage of 500 strangers.
No, of course not.
And to me, they're just shopping carts blocking my favorite cereal aisle. I just want them out of the way so I can get home.
Right, yeah.
So on the road, traveling at 60 miles an hour, shielded by glass and steel, how is the source material actually expecting us to actively care about these invisible homes? Like, my brain would just short circuit if I tried to deeply empathize with every single car on the highway.
Well, your brain would absolutely short circuit, which is why the goal isn't deep individual empathy for every passing car. The goal is structural respect.
Okay, structural respect. What does that mean in practice?
It means understanding why you lose that respect behind the wheel in the first place. The grocery store analogy is great, but the road is a fundamentally different psychological environment.
How so?
In a grocery store, you have micro-interactions. You make eye contact.
Yeah.
You hear someone say, "Excuse me," or you hear a baby crying in their cart.
Right, you get human feedback.
Exactly. Human evolution built our brains to process social cues at walking speed. That's about 3 miles per hour.
Okay.
But when you put a human being inside a soundproof, climate-controlled metal box and you move them at 60 miles an hour, you strip away every single biological cue that triggers our natural consideration for others.
Wow. So we're essentially in sensory deprivation tanks, just steering.
Exactly. You can't hear the rickshaw driver's anxious sigh. You can't see the cyclist's determined expression.
Yeah.
Your brain is just trying to manage the immense cognitive load of operating heavy machinery at high speeds. So it categorizes these complex human beings as simple geometry. A rectangle moving left, a square slowing down.
Just shapes on a screen.
You are battling your own biology.
Well,
To overcome that, you can't just tell yourself to be nicer. You have to consciously project humanity onto those metal boxes before you even put the car in drive.
because the environment is actively working to dehumanize everyone around you.
Exactly.
So it takes this deliberate active effort to remind yourself that, the massive truck overtaking you isn't just a rogue machine acting out of malice. There is a human being in that cab who has probably been awake for 20 hours, just trying to meet a punishing deadline so his kids can eat.
And when we fail to make that deliberate effort, when we allow that single-player mode to take over entirely, the consequences are not just an awkward collision of shopping carts in aisle 4.
No, not at all.
The consequences are permanent. Chapter 2 shifts from the invisible burdens we carry to the devastating reality of what happens when those burdens are violently dropped on the pavement.
Which brings us to the really haunting story from the source material that, honestly, it forced me to stop reading and just sit with it for a minute.
It's a tough one to read.
It really is. It's about a single mother working as a domestic helper. She spends her life cleaning other people's homes and cooking in other people's kitchens.
Yeah.
And she poured every single ounce of her savings, every denied hope, every extra shift to her son's future. He was the center of her entire existence.
Her entire life's trajectory was basically aimed at providing him with a better one.
Exactly. And one afternoon, her son borrowed a friend's bike. It was a short trip, a completely familiar route, just running a quick local errand.
Just down the street.
Right.
Yeah.
And because it was so quick and so close to home, he made a split-second calculation and skipped the helmet.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a rebellious act against authority, It was just a casual, hey, I'm just going down the street, I'll be back in 5 minutes decision.
Right.
And he never came back.
And the defining tragedy of that narrative is really captured in the mother's response.
Yeah.
When the initial shock subsided and people inevitably asked her what she needed or how they could help, her only response was, "What do I do now? Who do I cook for now?"
Who do I cook for now? I mean, that just completely shatters you.
It does.
Because it shows that the home doesn't just lose a family member. It loses its entire orienting purpose. The daily rhythm of life, the literal reason for waking up in the morning, is just gone.
And the chapter frames this as a brutal, almost incomprehensible piece of arithmetic.
The math of it all, yeah.
A mother endures 9 months of physical pain to bring a child into the world. That is followed by years, often decades, of unyielding sacrifice, expense, and worry.
Yeah.
Yet all of that accumulated love and effort, all of that human architecture, can be completely erased by a careless 2-minute decision to skip wearing a helmet.
It's terrifying.
The asymmetry of that equation is staggering. Decades to build a human life and 2 seconds of applied physics to end it.
It's mind-boggling. It's like a master sculptor spending 40 years chiseling a priceless, delicate masterpiece out of marble,
Right.
only to casually leave it out in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane because they couldn't be bothered to throw a tarp over it.
That is a perfect analogy.
So why do we do this? I want to dig into the mechanics of this a bit. Why does a perfectly rational human being's brain trick them into thinking that a short distance somehow cancels out the laws of physics?
Well, what you're describing is a psychological mechanism known as the familiarity heuristic.
The familiarity heuristic. Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. Our brains are incredibly energy-hungry organs, right?
Yeah.
And they are constantly looking for ways to save processing power.
Okay.
When you are doing something new, like driving in a foreign city, your brain is on high alert. It's scanning for threats, reading every sign, monitoring every pedestrian.
Right, you're gripping the wheel tight, super focused.
Exactly. And that takes a massive amount of cognitive energy. But when you drive that same 1-mile stretch to the local market for the 1,000th time, your brain recognizes the pattern.
Ah, I see.
So it hands control over to the basal ganglia, which is the part of the brain that handles automated habits.
So it essentially puts you on autopilot.
Autopilot is the absolute perfect word for it. Because you have survived this specific route 1,000 times without incident, your brain rewires the data to equate familiarity with safety.
Wow.
It categorizes the local street as a zero-risk environment, so it literally stops actively scanning for danger.
And this is why people skip the helmet or leave the seatbelt off for that quick trip to the corner store.
Exactly. But here is the terrifying reality. The road doesn't know your history with it.
Right.
The asphalt doesn't care that you live 3 blocks away. Physics does not offer a discount for local trips. The danger hides exactly inside the moments that have stopped feeling dangerous.
And the road is the ultimate equalizer, isn't it?
Yeah.
The text points this out explicitly by bringing up the story of an internationally famous cricketer who also lost his son to a road accident.
Yes.
We are talking about someone with massive wealth, global fame, unlimited resources, and public adoration.
And none of that invisible armor mattered.
None of it.
Because wealth, fame, and status are social constructs.
Hi?
The road only speaks the language of mass, velocity, and deceleration.
No.
It respects no hierarchy whatsoever. At the point of impact, the cricketer's son and the domestic helper's son are met by the exact same unforgiving laws of motion.
That's a really chilling thought.
When metal bends and glass shatters, it doesn't ask to check your bank balance or your social media following.
No.
This universal vulnerability is a core theme in the text.
Because the physical risk is universal, the responsibility to act safely has to be universal too.
Exactly.
So let's talk about that responsibility and how we actually act inside the car. We've looked at the devastating outcomes, the arithmetic of tragedy, but how do these casual, fatal habits actually form in the first place?
That is the million-dollar question.
How do we become the people who trust the familiarity heuristic over basic safety? And I think this brings us to the concept of the backseat classroom and the silent observers.
Yes, the children sitting behind us.
The kids. The text points out that children watch everything adults do with this wide-open, constantly recording attention.
They really do.
They are essentially little, highly sensitive dash cams mounted in the backseat. And here's where I think parents fundamentally misunderstand how kids learn about risks.
Oh, entirely.
We think we can verbally tell them to look both ways 1,000 times. We think buying them a coloring book about traffic safety does the job.
Right. We rely on the lecture.
But if we decide to answer a text message at a red light while they are watching in the backseat,
that is the software update they actually install.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is a highly accurate way to look at how behavioral norms are transferred.
Yeah. When a child sees an adult leave a seatbelt unfastened or, rush through an amber light because they are running late, the child does not process that as a traffic violation.
Right. They don't know the law.
They don't possess the legal context or the concept of mortality required to understand why the rule exists. What they process is simply, this is normal adult behavior.
Right. If the adult breaks the rule, the child assumes the rule must be fake, or at least highly situational.
Exactly.
The old do as I say, not as I do completely fails because the dash cam doesn't record your lectures. It only records your actions.
Yeah.
If I yell at another driver, my kid learns that the car is a place where aggression is acceptable. If I casually drape the seatbelt behind my back so the alarm stops dinging, they learn that safety equipment is just an annoyance to be bypassed.
Carelessness is not being explicitly taught in a classroom. It is being transmitted across generations through quiet, daily repetition.
Wow.
The child's brain writes a line of code based on your actions. When we are in a hurry, looking at our phones is an acceptable risk.
Or seatbelts are only necessary for long highway trips, not the grocery store.
Exactly. And that corrupted line of code sits dormant in their programming for 15 years. It waits. And then, the day they get their own driver's license, that code executes automatically. You are unknowingly programming your children to take the exact same risks that will eventually keep you awake at night worrying about them.
That is a terrifying thought, because I think of my own habits. I think of the times I've nudged the speed limit because we were late for soccer practice.
We've all done it.
I wasn't just risking a speeding ticket. I was teaching my kid how to drive in the year 2035.
And the chapter argues that the window to fix this corrupted data closes much earlier than we want to believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, by the time a child reaches their teenage years, those thousands of hours of observation have already hardened into reflexes.
Makes sense.
The intervention has to happen early and, crucially, It has to be modeled physically, not just spoken verbally.
Mm.
But what makes this section of the text so powerful is how it reframes the motivation for change.
Right.
It isn't about lecturing adults with terrifying statistics or threatening them with legal fines. It is about empowering the children to be the voice of reason.
Yeah, but there is a very specific phrase the text highlights, and it is spoken from the perspective of the child. Papa, wear your helmet and fasten your seatbelt when you drive. We will be waiting for you.
That phrase completely rewires the psychology of safety.
It really does.
It takes road safety away from being a sterile, bureaucratic legal rule, something you do to avoid paying a fine to the state, and turns it into a profound emotional obligation.
Yeah.
When a child says, "We will be waiting for you," they are piercing through that single-player mode. They are actively reminding the driver of the invisible home they are trailing behind them.
It works because you can argue with a traffic cop. You can rationalize away a billboard telling you that speed kills. You can tell yourself that the statistics apply to bad drivers, not to you.
Right.
But you absolutely cannot argue with your own kid asking you to please stay alive so you can come home to them tonight.
It uses the purest, most undeniable form of love to counter the most dangerous forms of human complacency. It grounds the driver back in reality, reminding them that their physical well-being is directly tied to the emotional survival of the people sitting in their living room. Let's bring all these concepts together. This deep dive has really forced us to look in the mirror. We started by looking at the invisible baggage we all carry onto the road. The medical bills, the exams, the sheer human weight inside every passing vehicle.
Yeah.
We examined the cognitive limits that make us blind to each other's humanity, turning complex lives into mere obstacles on our commute. We also unpacked the terrifying asymmetry of life on the road. The decades of pain, love, and sacrifice it takes to build a life, weighed against the 2 minutes of familiar carelessness it takes to destroy it.
Yeah.
We looked at how the familiarity heuristic betrays us and how the road relies purely on physics, treating the celebrity and the student with the exact same unforgiving finality.
And we dug into the root of the problem, the backseat classroom, how our kids are acting as silent dash cams, recording our shortcuts and adopting our bad data as their own baseline for normal.
Right.
But we also found the antidote right there, in the voices of those same kids, reminding us why safety matters in the first place. It is not about avoiding a ticket. It is about honoring the expectation of the return.
Which leads directly to the central dichotomy presented in this text. It is a single line that perfectly distills the entire philosophy of Chapter 2. The road only remembers your speed. Your home remembers your return.
The road only remembers your speed. Your home remembers your return. That is the kind of line that stays with you long after the commute is over.
It really is.
So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day. I want you to think about your own silent expectations back home.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a meal that someone is keeping warm on the stove for you. Maybe it's a porch light that was left on specifically so you wouldn't have to fumble with your keys in the dark.
Or maybe it's just a pet waiting by the window.
Right, or a roommate who assumes you'll be walking in to complain about your boss in a few hours.
Those silent expectations are not trivial things. They are the most precious things we possess.
Mm.
They are the tangible proof that our existence matters deeply to someone else.
So here's the challenge for you. When you get into your car tomorrow morning, or when you grab your bike to head to the store, don't just sit down and adjust your mirrors. Take 2 seconds to adjust your motivation.
I like that.
Understand the mechanism of the machine you are operating and the fragility of the people operating the machines around you. Realize that you aren't just driving to get to your destination.
Oh.
You are driving to fulfill the quiet, unspoken promise you made to the people who simply assume, with all their hearts, that you will be walking back through that door tonight. Keep that contract unbroken.